In this video, I'll discuss choosing a PhD program. If you get a campus visit for a PhD program you've applied to, always try to go to it. Go visit where you might live for the next 4 to 5 years, or not, if not longer. Chances are when you were applying to PhD programs, you were interested in the location. Is it in the metropolitan area, big urban area where there's lots going on? Or is it in a more rural or college town area where there's still a lot going on, but it's different and chances are you might bump into the same people? Get a feel for what life is like in a college town or in a metro area, and try not to pay too much attention to your bias for either of those things. Try to really go in with an open mind. Also talk to people. What's life like for PhD students there? Even if you live in a large metropolitan area as a PhD student, that might not necessarily mean that you get to do all the things that you would expect, because it might just be more expensive, so you're really hunkering down near campus anyway. PhD programs can take as little as 4 years, sometimes less, or as much as basically you can never finish and you can be an ABD. Don't be that person? Well, unless you have a really good opportunity, then sure, be that person. The reason you want to know the average duration of a PhD program is basically you just want to know how long are you going to be there? How long until you have to hit the market for a job? That gives you a way to begin to backwards plan. So if you know that the average is actually pretty long, something like 5 to 7 years, then, well, that's about average. So if you know that the average is pretty long, something like 6 to 8 years, then you know that for some reason it takes students a while to finish. It's good to know what those reasons are, because it's not just time to finish. Those are 7 to 8 years of your life. So you have to understand that life happens within that time period. When you ask questions about timeline, ask yourself, is that too fast? Do I feel like I'll be rushed? Or is it too slow? Do I feel like I'll slow down and won't really get started with my career? It's important for you to always take any information, particularly time to degree information, and evaluate it based off of what your goals are. What do I expect will happen in that time? I started my degree when I was in my 30s. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Did I? How old was I? I was 28? Late 20s? I started my degree when I was in my late 20s. So that means I finished around my early to mid 30s. You don't get to know how old I am. But that still felt fine to me because I didn't feel like I was losing any important wage earning years. Also ask what some common setbacks are. There are other more common circumstances that could happen, usually around funding or data collection, or some students just take a while to write their dissertation. But try to get a feel for whether or not there are any patterns that emerge based off of it taking too long to finish or students finishing quickly. The first few years of a PhD program are a lot like a master's program. In fact, often they pretty much are a master's program. You take courses, and those courses might seem repetitive or they might be new. Regardless, ask what kind of courses they are and get a feel for whether or not it would be repeat information for you. And if it is repeat information, ask what the process is for taking more advanced courses. Or if they're new and interesting courses that you haven't heard of, ask questions about them. How many are methods courses or more technically oriented courses? How many are more survey courses or meant to introduce you to broader theories? Basically, which ones are hands-on, which ones aren't, and that'll give you a feel for what you'll be learning for the next 2 years. Also ask if it's possible for you to take courses within other units. By unit, I basically mean another school or another subdivision of the university. For example, if I am in a school of education, can I take a class in the psychology department? If I'm in the psychology department, can I take a class that's interesting in the School of Public Policy, right? See how easy it is for you to do something like that. Sometimes it's incredibly easy because there's basically no barriers between units when it comes to taking courses. Other times the process can be a little bit more onerous and might require you to get special permission from the instructor who's offering the course. When you visit, make sure that you pay attention to who the cohorts are. That means your cohort, the people who are visiting there with you, these will be folks that are your peers that will be first-year PhD students, so you'll run into them a lot. Get a feel for how the group is gelling or not gelling. Don't make any presuppositions or any assumptions about the folks there, but get a feel for who is there. Why are they there? What training do they have? What colleges did they come from? What are their substantive research interests? What are their hobbies? There are lots of different questions that you can sort of ask, and as you get to know folks, you'll begin to understand what the cohort dynamic is like. Chances are you will meet with PhD students who have been there for a while, so get to know them. Ask them questions. Ask them all of the candid questions, even questions you think you shouldn't ask, because this is your one chance to really get full information from everyone there. And everyone who's there is really trying to put their best foot forward. So it's this interesting dynamic of they're trying to show you their best, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't ask about the worst. Definitely keep an eye out for older cohorts who might seem a little bit more run down or stressed out. Keep in mind that no one perspective is representative of the program. The size of a cohort will matter for a couple of obvious reasons. One, the more people, the more expertise, the more you'll be able to get to know and basically find subgroups of people you get along with. Sometimes if the cohorts are small, you get who you get and you hope for the best. So get a feel for what the cohort size is and feel free to ask if that size changes from year to year. Every institution should have some sort of leave policy that basically allows students to separate from the program, but not drop out of the program. Often this is for a semester or a given length of time, and sometimes these leaves are paid. Find out what your leave policy is, because that'll give you a sense of what happens if you need to take that time, if there's some sort of family event that takes you away from the program for a while, or you just need a break. Ask about funding. Where does it come from? That's not necessarily important for you because you're not going to go out and find funding. Generally speaking, you're not responsible for your own funding. If you get communication that you are, chances are you probably shouldn't go to that PhD program. PhDs should always be fully funded. If you have to take out loans, then you're really gambling because then you have to make the calculation, what's my return on investment? And sometimes it's not that high. However, if it's funded, then it's less about what's my return on investment and it's more what are my opportunity costs? What do I lose by attending? And that's a different question altogether because you're not putting in your own money. You're just putting in your sweat equity and your time. What are university level opportunities that are available to you? Sometimes that could mean an internal university level grant that you can apply for. Sometimes there are prizes, but this gets you a feel for how the university is investing in its students because it's important to know that you're supported by the larger institution that you're choosing to attend. What are some questions that folks have asked before? Put them in the comments below.